Having trouble seeing where to start the chat. I don't even see it on here. I might have to log out. I'm not seeing how to start the share my screen. I don't have that icon on this one. Oh, there it is. All right, before we begin, are there any questions? There we go. There is, I don't even see the icon for where. Oh, there it is. There we go. All right, today is February 3rd, and we were going to be discussing the unknown project. Before I talk about that, let me briefly discuss that I did do some grading. I have the last quiz, I think that was 2C. I've gone through and checked, and 95% of the class got showed me your environment correctly. So there was no problem with 95% of the class. I also have lab 5 graded for the majority of you. I might have 3 or 4 left. I'm hoping to finish those 3 or 4 tonight. And if I get them finished by tomorrow morning, then I will make lab 5 due for the second grading this Saturday. So I'm assuming I'm going to get it graded by tomorrow morning, hopefully even before that. But if I do, then the second grading will be due this Saturday. If you did not get 100%, you can turn in the lab again for a second grading. If you want to know the answers for anything you got wrong and you only turned it in once, you need to email me and state that you want to know what you did wrong, because I will only give answers, correct answers in the second grading. Any question about any of that? All right, I think that's it for the grading. Oh, I need to get the lecture graded. I'm going to hopefully get that done tonight as well. I don't think I got the lecture graded. I did get the study group graded. And I think everything is graded. The lab's only one time, but everything I think is graded except for the lecture and the 3 or 4 people in the lab for grade lab 1. Any questions about the grading? All right, let's talk about the unknown project. Let me close some of these down. You can find the unknown project in week 5 lab. Boy, this is really slow. I thought it would be speeding up because I'm only using Zoom once. I'm not using Zoom to make the lecture file because we closed lecture down so early. I might be still uploading that though. Let me check on that. Doesn't look like I'm doing that anymore. Anyways, you can find the unknown project under week 5 lab. Scroll down the page. Week 5 lab. You should have already looked at the unknown instructions. If you haven't read it, you should do that. I'm going to talk about that. I'll briefly talk about the sample journal, building a dichotomous game plan, the unknown species list, the unknown notes, and then lastly, I'll talk about the unknown grading rubric. So if you click here, you should get this document up. I thought I had that up. No, that's not it. Oh, there it is. You should get this document here. The unknown project is a 75-point lab project. And it follows the unknown tradition where students in a normal lab come into the lab and the instructor gives you an unknown bacteria. And then all term long, you're going to run different tests to try and identify the bacteria. Now we're going to do everything online, but we're going to be doing the unknown project. And what you're going to be doing is I'm going to send you in 1 week's time a number, and the number is going to stand for a bacteria. Let me show you which bacteria. If you open up the unknown list, it will be one of these gram negatives, something like 10 or 11 of them, or one of these gram positive, also 10 or 11 of them. And what you're going to be doing is requesting a test. I'll send you the picture of the results after the test is incubated. And then you interpret the pictures to get the results. For example, the very first 3 tests I'm going to be giving you, I might only give you 2 tests, but at least 2 tests. I'm going to give you the gram stain and the gelatin hydrolysis test. So these 2 tests I will give you. I might give you the lactose PR lactose test as well. I'll decide whether I want to give you 2 or 3 tests in the next couple of days. But at the moment, you're definitely getting the gram test and the gelatin test, and you may get the PR lactose test. Initially, I'm choosing which tests you will get because I discovered when we first made this project online that this project with 20 students requiring 5 or 6 contacts between the student and the instructor. And if it's just 5 and there's 20 students, that's 100 contacts. Like we were thinking about doing it email at first. And I said 100 different contacts between the students and me. It's just too many for one project. And so I talked to the other instructors and I said, what if I give my students 2 or 3 tests to begin with, and then they will take those results. And then from that point, they will then request the next test, and then the next test, and the next test. Usually students will request 5 to 6 tests, occasionally 7 or maybe even 8 tests, but very rarely. If you're very, very lucky, you may get it in 4 tests, but I've only had that happen a couple of times. So most students will request 5 or 6 tests. And if I give you 2 or 3 tests, if it's 3 tests, that will reduce the number of emails or contacts between me and the students by 60. Because instead of sending out 60 different emails, I'll just send out one to the entire class, giving the gram stain, the gelatin hydrolysis, and perhaps the PR lactose in one email. Any question about any of that? And the only reason for doing that is simply to reduce the number of contacts between the students and me, because 100 for one project is just too much. I will be over burden trying to answer the emails. So you'll get at least the gram stain in the gelatin test at the very beginning. If it's gram negative, you know that it's narrowed down to these tests here. So you can highlight that. And then if it's gram negative, gelatin negative, it'll be narrowed down to these species here. So that reduces it from about half to that, and then down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 species there. And let's say you request the PR lactose test. I might even send it to you initially with the other two, and it's AG. That narrows it down to 4 species of bacteria. Then you need to look and see of these 4 species, how can you separate them? You could separate them with this one, although that's not a very good test because it's variable. We'll discuss that in a minute. These tests would not separate them because they're all the plus. That wouldn't separate them. That's not the best because, once again, that's variable. Here's a fairly good one. Endo will separate these 4 into 3. These are negative. That's positive. Methyl rad will separate it into 2 positive and 2 negative. And then citrate will split it into 3 positive and 1 negative. So you request one of these tests to then try and decide which of these 4 species you have. Any questions about how we're going about this project? So
Are
initially,
we
go on.
are we doing this by Canvas email?
Yes, it'll be done by Canvas email. Um, to a point, and that is my first email will come to you in Canvas email where you'll get a picture with your unknown bacteria number. I'll tell you what your number is, and then I'll show you the results, and it'll be gram negative, the picture. You have to interpret that it's gram negative, but the picture will be gram negative. And then you'll look at the gelatin hydrolysis. You'll see it's gelatin negative. And then let's say you choose the PR lactose or give it to you, and it's AG um, for PR lactose. I'll discuss that in a little bit.
You're going to discuss what AG is?
No, I will explain that in just a minute, but you have to understand the table here, and there's a key here for most things, like the star, what it means. What the V means variable. The brackets mean variable, but more likely to be whatever in the parentheses. And if I'm giving you a result and it's like a plus in parentheses, you can take that result as plus because all the species we use in the lab are what it is in parentheses. But it means that some strains of this species, Staphylococcus epidermidis, can be negative, some can be positive. And so most of them are positive, and all the ones we have in the lab are positive. So somebody would request that test, and you get the results nitrate, it would be positive, and that would be correct. Okay. If it's variable, it means the results could come back either positive or negative because some strains are negative and other strains are positive. I'll never show you a picture of variable. I would show you a picture of either a positive or a negative, but it can be either positive or negative if it says variable. Is that clear to you? Meaning each test I run, the picture will come back either positive or negative. Because how could I show you variable? It would be either positive or negative.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. Um, ND means not determined. It really means that that test is not run for this species. The urease test is not run on Lactococcus lactis. So we actually have no data for even what it is. But ND means it could be positive or negative, but we actually have no data on what it even is because people don't run urease test on Lactococcus lactis, so I don't even know what it is. Let's see. All right, that's all of them except for the PR test, the PR glucose, the PR lactose, the PR sucrose, the PR mannitol, and the PR inulin are in the lab, abbreviated PR carbohydrate. And the various tests you can then find underneath the unknown report. In the next one, week 5 lab unknown test, scroll down to the PR carbohydrate, open it up, and it tells you, once it opens, the PR carbohydrate broth of PR test is the PR glucose test, the PR lactose test, PR sucrose test, the PR mannitol test, the PR inulin test, or another PR carbohydrate. So this test has one sugar in it, either glucose, lactose, sucrose, mannitol, or inulin, and then you're testing to see if that sugar can ferment. If the sugar ferments, you'll see the color of the media turning yellow because fermentation results in acid products when sugar is fermented, and then the tube will turn from red to yellow. And if it's yellow, then you have A, meaning an acid is produced. If it's only A, there is no gas being produced. If it's AG, you have acid being produced as well as gas being produced. This test has to run between 18 and 48 hours. And if it's negative, there's no evidence of fermentation. The media will either stay red or will turn a slight pinkish color. And then there's the method of the test. And then there's a negative test where the media isn't changing color, it's staying red, and that's the negative. This is a PR. Which one is it? Doesn't even tell you. Okay, this is a PR test, one of the carbohydrates, and you can see it turn yellow, so that would be acid. And there's a gas bubble, which is forming in the inverted Durham tube. You can see it a little better in that tube there. The inverted Durham tube is to catch the collection of gas. And when the sugar ferments, some species will produce gas, others will only produce acid. And if it's only acid, you put A. If it's acid and gas, you put AG for yellow and then bubble forming. Any question about that? And you would have to request this test if you wanted to do all of them. What is it, 5 different times? I'm not able to go up now. Ah, why isn't that going up? Oh, here we go. You would have to request it for glucose, you have to request it for lactose, you have to request it for sucrose, you have to request it for mannitol, request it for inulin, so that'd be at least 5 times if you are wanting to do all of them. Most people wouldn't want to do all of them, but anyways, to find out these for PR glucose, you look under PR carbohydrate broth. And then the AG stands for acid and gas. The A just stands for acid. And let's take a look at the table here. For the gram negatives, for these four, all of them are acid and gas, and all the others are negative. But that one there, most of them are acid and gas. There's a few negative. There's one A. And then for the gram positives, it looks like all of them are either acid or negative. There's no acid and gas in any of them. Any question about AG and A and negative and the BR tests? I think that's it for all the keys. Oh, there's one more. The hemolysis, you should already know this. ND means no data. We don't run the hemolysis test on Citrobacter fruendi or any of the gram negatives, actually. Alpha or negative means that the hemolysis is either no hemolysis negative or alpha hemolysis, and it's weak alpha hemolysis why the chart says alpha or negative. So it sometimes will look like it's alpha, sometimes it'll look negative, depending on how weak the alpha is. So these are both alpha or negative. This one is only Micrococcus varians, only negative. This one is beta hemolysis, Staphylococcus aureus. There's another beta Streptococcus galactiae, and there's another beta Streptococcus pyogenes. And then these two are alpha, and that one as an alpha or a negative. Remember, if I give you results and it's an alpha, you have to take that it's alpha or a negative. If it's a negative, you have to take a negative or alpha or negative. Any question about any of that? All right. So once you've identified the species, let's go ahead and say the next test after this one. You do that one and it's negative. And then you do, well, now we're in a pickle. Oh, wait a minute. Well, no, there's still a pickle. Let's say you do this one and it's negative. You have to take that and the variable, the V, and now you have to do another test. One that you could do would be this one. And if it's positive, it has to be the V. If it's negative, it would be that one or that one. But if it's positive, it has to be the V. Any question about any of that? Anyways, we've now identified the species, Citrobacter fruendi, for this one. How many tests was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different tests. You can, if you wish, end here, or you could request one further test to confirm that you have Citrobacter fruendi. And what would be a good test to run? Maybe urease. Maybe methyl red. That would be a real good one to determine. So you could do one confirmation test. If you do more than one confirmation test, you will receive a penalty. So after you've identified the species, you can only do one confirmation test after you've identified the species. Any question about any of that? You do not need to do a confirmation test. It's up to you. All right. That's how this project will work. Like I said, the very first time, I'll send you an email. I'll just send one email out to the entire class, and I'll have all the students' names and what their unknown number is. And you guys have to try and figure out what your number stands for. And let's say I said 1, and this one eventually ended up Citrobacter fruendi. And this is the process you use for identifying what it was. We first had the gram negatives, we then had gelatin hydrolysis negative, we then had PR lactose AG, we then had, I guess, indole test negative, and then VP negative, and then TSI H2S test positive.
So after you send the first three test results to the class, we're requesting them, like
Mhm.
additional test results.
Yes, you request them after I've sent you the first couple of tests. It'll be either two or three.
Okay.
I haven't decided yet what we'll do, but it'll be either two or three that I will send to you. And how you're going to request, other than the very first email from me, all of your test requests, all of the data, all of the interactions for this test will be done in your unknown notes pages. So you click on your unknown notes pages. The unknown notes page, by the way, will be graded. It'll be worth 5 points. That'll count as one lab project. You don't have a speed grader here, but this is telling you how to do the unknown notes page. There's no data here. The first person comes up, that'll be the grade. And this will be where I will send you information in the comments. You guys send me information you'll have a submission page. And if you want to put a comment, put it in your document. I will read your document. If you want to put a test request, put it on the bottom of your document because that's where I'll be looking for the document. I won't read your documents every day, not even every other day in your unknown notes page, but at least Monday through Friday, I'll check the unknown notes pages and I'll scroll to the bottom of the page looking to see if you have a test request. So put it in.
Really quick question on that. Do you happen to have an unknown notes like template that has worked for other students on like organizing their notes and their thoughts,
I'm going to
or is it
show
kind of
you
just a
that.
free for all?
I'm going to show you that in a minute, but
Okay.
I need to stop the share so I can remove the student's grade, and it'll be a previous student in a previous class where they actually have unknown notes up. But my point is, you put your comments in the document. I will eventually read it, and if you have a test request, put it at the bottom of the page or it can be at the very top of the page because I will see the very top of the page. If some students occasionally they put it in the middle of the page, I'm not going to be reading through your document every other day. So if you submit a document and you put your test request in the middle of the document, I'm not going to see it every other day. Monday through Friday, I'll guarantee that I'll take a look at your unknown notes pages at least every other day. Sometimes I'll do it every day, but at least every other day I'll check. And so I'll find it at the end of your document or at the top of the document. In the middle of the document, I'm not going to look. So if it's there, you're just going to miss out. And on the weekends, I will not be checking your notes page every other day. I may check it on Friday, but I may not check it again until Monday. And so if you request a test late on Friday, after I've already sent out the results for the test requests on Friday, you may not get any results until Monday. So be expecting that. Now, I will try to take a look at the unknown notes page if I checked it on Friday. I will try to take a look at it on Saturday as well so that you won't always have to wait until Monday. But sometimes I will not be able to get it done on Saturday, in which case you will not get the me to even see your test request until on Monday. Any question about that part? Now then, you're not going to get the results as soon as you request it. The test has to incubate. And so when you request a test, you will have to take a look at the test to see how long the test needs to incubate. And you scroll down here. Some of them, like the catalase test, you can get the results on the same day that you requested, because this test, if you have cells, you can do that test on the same, get the results on the same day you run the test. Other tests, you may need to have fresh cells, in which case I'll require you to grow up the cells. This is just pretend. Grow up the cells, which is the one, the oxidase test, needs fresh cells to be do the test. And so if you request a test, I will at least make you wait a day because you need fresh cells to run the oxidase test before I send out the results. If you have a test that you just requested and you request another test, that'll be fresh enough. You need to have cells about 2 days old to do the oxidase test. Other tests like the pigment test you can get right away, assuming you have cells. But most tests require 2 days time, like the 6.5% and the 7% salt media. These are two different tests on one. The bilasculin, the cellular growth arrangement, about 2 days. The citrate test, 2 days. The growth on EMB, 2 days. Most of the tests take 2 days to incubate, where you're growing the cells on the media for 2 days, and then you take a look at the test results. Some of them require even further, like the MR test requires 5 days of growth before you can look at the tube and do your results to get the results. And one of them, the gelatin hydrolysis test, takes 1 week of growth before you can look at the results. And that's one of the reasons why I'm going to give you the gelatin hydrolysis test at the very start, because this is the test that takes the longest to run. Any question about that? How you can find out how long the test requires to incubate is simply take a look at the test. You should look at the test for what the results could be, what the methods are for doing the test, as soon as this loads, as well as find out what your incubation time is. Well, that's rather odd. Let's try that again. For some reason, Canvas is not working. Let me try another test, a simpler one. What's a nice simple one? One that doesn't have very many pictures. Maybe that one. It does have pictures, but not too many. There it goes. I'm not sure why that other one wasn't working, but this one I already told you, you can get the results on the same day, but just look at the procedure and it'll tell you how long you need to do to run the test. Most of the tests take 2 days. No, that one takes 7 days. Let's go indole test. That one takes 2 days. I know that one off the top of my head. Most of them I actually know off the top of my head. Did I try that one earlier? If it doesn't say how long the incubation period is, you can just assume it's 2 days. Boy, a lot of these aren't going to work. That one's 5 days, but we'll go ahead and take a look at it. All right, you're going to have to take my word on it. A lot of these aren't working. Now, this one has some pretty big pictures in it, so I'll be surprised if this one works. All right. Not sure what the problem is. So let's go to the instructions. I already talked about the, oh no, I need to show you the unknown notes pages. Let me stop the share because I need to, can you guys see my screen now? No. All right. They must have uploaded the Zoom because I've lost the background image again. I sometimes lose it when I may upload the new version of Zoom. All right, let's go in here and take a look at a previous term to show you the unknown notes pages. Oh, excuse me. Oh, there it is. Yeah, Canvas is really slow too.
Really quick off-topic question for you.
Mhm.
For the study groups, are we allowed to discuss the unknown project together? Like if one of us has questions, are we allowed to work through it together?
You may, but realize that's not studying really for anything for the
Yes.
exams.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Just wanted to make sure like that was okay. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, you can do that. All right, there's a speed grader. I'll try and look for a good one. That's not a good one. There we go. So let me erase the score here. And now let me share my screen. All right, here is a student's unknown notes. And I remove the grade. So the student puts different documents up here. You can see she's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different documents. Four different documents, sorry. Nope, 5 different documents. Whatever. And I had a grade there, I've erased it. And I've got my comments here. The student requested the indole test, and so I put the results there. And she also requested the MR test, and I put the results there. And it looks like she only requested 2 tests. So she got it done in 5 tests. But on the very first day, she put down what the gelatin test was. So she started in 729, and then she started the PR lactose test in 8.4, and the gram stain test in 8.5. 8.6, she got the results of all 3 tests. These are the results of the gram stain. Her unknown number is, what is that, number 33. And there's the results of the gelatin hydrolysis test. And she got the top picture for number 33. And then there's the unknown bacteria in the PR lactose test. She got this result here for number 33. So she concluded that one of her species was one of these 4 species, which is good because that's kind of what I just talked about earlier. And then the next test she asked was the indole test, and I gave her the results on August 12th, and there's the results of the indole test. She gave her results here, which is the what you're seeing, and the color here. If it's positive, it would be red pink. If it's negative, she doesn't state that there, but negative, it would be yellow in color. And the interpretation is the indole test is negative. So you need to have the conclusion, which is your interpretation of the test, and then your observation. The observation here would be that the indole test looks yellow. And the observation is your result, the interpretation is your conclusion. And then she asked for the methyl red test, and boy, I'm not seeing that clearly. Let me blow that up. Is that a red? Does that look red to you? Anyone?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, now I can see it. So the methyl red test, this looks red. There's a negative control, it looks yellowish, and that would be your observation or your results. The conclusion is the methyl red test is positive, and you should have in these pages both your results, meaning your observation, and your conclusion. And from that, she was able to identify the species. She said it was C. Ferendi. She did not do a confirmation test. And that's fine, you don't need to. And then she was done. You can see that what she did was she just started with the document and then she added to it each time she put this up. On this day, she's probably only requesting what tests she's going to be running, or I chose for her, but she stated what day they were started and what day they're going to be ending. And then she put on the results of the gram stain, the gelatin hydrolysis test, and the PR lactose test. The next day, she requested the indole test and got the results, and there's the results of the indole test, and she made the methyl red test. See, it's at the bottom. And then on the, why does she have 2 on the 12th? I'm not sure why she has 2 on the 12th. They both are requesting the methyl red test. She must have changed something. And then on the 26th, she has the results of the methyl red test. But you'll notice that she simply added to the page. The advantage of that is she can just copy this, the unknown notes page, and then copy that and put it directly into your unknown report. And as long as you write up the unknown notes page with formal wording, you can do that. The unknown notes page doesn't have to be formal wording, in which case you have to write it up yourself. You can't copy. But if you have it all together, you can just copy it and then paste it in your unknown report. Another way of doing it is she could have had the first document, which has only this results, and then on the second day, she only has not this result, but only this result on the second day. That's another way of doing it. Any question about any of that? All
So
right.
is the start date for the test the date that we request it, and then the day that we receive the results, we put that as the date of the test results?
Yes, for any test that you request. For the test that I'm going to be sending to you, you're going to be starting the gelatin hydrolysis test tonight, and that way you'll get your results in a week because it takes a week for the gelatin hydrolysis test to run. You're going to be starting well, if you do the PR lactose, you'll be starting it, um, what would that be, on Monday? And then I'll send you the results of it on Tuesday. And then you'll be doing the gram stain on Tuesday, and I'll send you the results of the gram stain on Tuesday. And that way I can send it all in one email in Canvas instead of sending 3 different emails, which is 60 different. No, it's not 60. It's 30 different. So that's a big difference to me. So you will be doing this with dichotomous logic. That's why you're starting the gelatin hydrolysis test today. You'll be starting, if you do the PR lactose test, on Monday. We're right there. And then the gram stain test you'll definitely do. And that will be started on Tuesday. And then I'll send you the results on Tuesday. Although it'll probably be late Tuesday because I'll send it after class, and it might be really early Monday, early Wednesday morning, because it usually takes me a while to send it out and get things done. And I usually like to post the Zoom video before I send out the results. Any question about any of that? All right. So you need to take the results I send to you and then put it in your unknown notes pages, as Crystal right here did. She put the unknown gram stain right there, what the when she started it here, and what the observation was, as well as the conclusion of the gram stain test there. All right, any question about the unknown notes page? All right, let me stop my share and then I'll put the grade back in case the student takes a look at it. I don't think I'm sharing my screen now. The student probably won't look at it, but I like to have the grade in there. All right, let me close this down. Let me see if that's the same one. Yep, close that down too. All right, so that's the unknown notes page. Like I stated, let me share my screen here. The unknown notes page, the instructions are right here. You must use this page for everything in your unknown project. And if you get confused on something in the unknown project, make sure you ask about it. Everything with this project will be done online. After the first 1 or 2 emails from me, all of the contact between you and me will be in your unknown notes page. If I send you any results by email, you must put it up in your unknown notes page. Please record the
Just to
date.
confirm, that's where it would be coming from, correct? The email, or will you put it in the unknown notes, like in the comment section as well?
I will be putting my contact to you in the comment section, because mainly what I'll be doing is just sending you a picture of the results, and it'll be in the comment section. If you want to put a comment to me, you should not put it in the comment section. You should put a comment in the document. I will read the document, although not every other day, but I will read it probably about twice a week. and I will see your comment. If I need to give you a verbal comment, I will put it in the comment section. I do not like students to use the comment section because when students use the comment section, it becomes very long and verbose, and then you have trouble seeing what I sent you. I also have trouble seeing what I sent you as well. All right, so record your daily activities in your unknown notes, especially the test requests. Put your test request at the bottom of the page. If you put it in the middle of the page, I may not see the test request until I actually read the document. I won't be reading the document every other day. I will then send you the test results in the comment section after the appropriate incubation period. So once you request a test, you'll have to look up for how long the incubation period will be. And then after that period, you can expect to see results. If
So, so are we, so we're waiting for the incubation period to kind of make it like as if we're going into like a real microbiology lab, or are you like actually running these tests at like the lab at the school?
Well, I would like to say that I'm actually running the tests at the lab at the school because that's kind of the way I'm working it. But in reality, no, I'm not. I'm not
Okay.
really running the tests.
Okay, so like they've previously been ran and they're like test results from like previous terms or something.
Something like that. But I will
Okay.
require you to have an incubation period because if you were to go into the lab, you would be running the test and you would have to incubate them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're getting the unknown numbers tonight, and then we're not gonna have like the test results for the first two or three tests until next week. Is that
Next
wait, so we
Tuesday, yes, or maybe early next Wednesday.
okay, so we're not actually starting this like document and like lab until next week then.
Correct.
Okay,
And
just making
probably
sure.
I won't send you the unknown notes page until next Tuesday as well. Meaning I won't give you the unknown number until next Tuesday. I'll just send it all in one email. Probably that's what I'll do.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. So on your unknown notes page, also put your results and conclusions of any tests. Remember, your results are your observation, your conclusions are your interpretations. One other thing you should have in here is the species under consideration. Let me see if I've got that worded in there. There it is right there. You should also record the species currently under consideration. So if you all do that, if you all have that, and everything else is correct, which on the unknown notes, it should be pretty simple. If you have all that, you'll get 5 out of 5. If you do not have your last test result, like frequently students request their last test result, they never post it in your unknown notes page. You will get a deduction. If you don't have your species under consideration, you'll get a deduction. If you don't have all of your test requests or when the tests were started, you'll get a deduction. Um, when you submit a document, it will automatically put a date on the document. There might be a time on it as well. You don't need to worry about the time. But when you submit a document, there will be a date that it says it's submitted. And so I showed you with the unknown notes pages, there were 4 or 5 different documents and they had different days or times. I think there were 2 submitted on the same day. So that will be done for you, the submission of the time and the date. Everything else you need to add to it, the unknown notes pages. I'll show you the grading of the unknown notes page if I can find it.
I think I saw the due date for this as, wait, when is this due? On the 21st of February or?
It's near the end of the term. Let me look at that in just a minute.
Okay.
There's the unknown notes key, I think right here. Yeah, here it is. The project, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so if the project's turned in late, there'll be a half a point deduction. No project number, 1 point deduction. Missing data that I sent you, 1 point deduction. Missing test start dates, a half a point deduction. No distinction between results and conclusion, half a point deduction. Missing species under consideration, minus a point. Missing the last test results, minus a half point. Missing more than just the last test result or all of the test results and conclusions, minus 1 point deduction. So that's how the unknown notes page will be graded. Like I said, it would be worth 5 points. Let me see when it's actually due here. Your unknown notes page will be due March 6th. That means the unknown report is due March 7th. I should have that on the syllabus here. Oops, wrong one. The unknown notes page is due March 6th. The unknown project is due Saturday, March 7th. So note that the unknown notes pages closes 1 day before the report is due. If you request a test on March 6th, it has to be one where you can get the results in a day or less. There's only a few tests that you can request, therefore, on Friday. If you request that takes more than a day, you will not get the results in time to turn in your report. Any question about any of that? All right. So the unknown project will be due near the end of the term. It's actually week 9 of the term. Saturday, week 9. And you need to write up the unknown report. I did mention that something you can do to speed up the grading is you write everything together in your unknown notes pages. You write it formally, and then you can just copy and paste it directly into your unknown report. Your unknown notes pages does not have to be written formally. You can be very informal, but the unknown report must be formal, meaning you use correct grammar and correct English and stuff like that. All right, let's take a look at the instructions here, the introduction. I've kind of already talked about it. The rationale, you can read about that. So the unknown project, you need to isolate it. Now, online, I'm only going to give you one species. So one number representing one number. However, you should go through and state in your unknown report and your unknown notes that you streak out the species I gave you, sending it through 2 colony isolation events to make sure that you're working with a pure culture. And so in your unknown report, it should look similar to the sample journal, where initially the person writing the journal is streaking out the cells to get a pure culture. Now, if you were to come into the lab, you would get a tube containing 2 species of bacteria in the tube. And you need to streak it out like this. You can see 2 different species here, one yellow, one whitish. And then you pull from, let's say you want a white colony here, you pull from one colony or the other and streak it out to get a isolated colony on a second plate. and then you take from the isolated colony on the second plate to set up your unknown stock culture to make sure you have a pure culture. And even then, it's only 95% or high chance that you have a pure culture, but it's pretty high. So you should go through that, and then it'll be similar to this sample journal. But you're not actually going to do that because you're not going to be streaking out bacteria on plates. Everything we do will be done online, and you can just assume that you did it online. And then you should write up the journal where you have activities. You're going to be doing a test on this day, and what's he going to do on this day? This is day 2. Select cells from colony B to inoculate 2 slant cultures. This is to get the stuck culture. And then the observations. So he's going to talk about the color of the slants. Colony B was yellow in growth. And then the activities on that day, that'll be the tests he's running on this day. So he's running the gram stain test. He's also setting up and refrigerating the stock culture. And then there's the results, the conclusions, which probably should have in another section. Conclusions, the results is the cells are staining purple. They are cockeyed. Let me blow that up so I can see that. Kind of see it there. And the conclusion is that these are gram-positive cockeye. Any questions about that?
So wait, our notes or our report should look like the sample journal? Our notes?
Just your report.
The report, okay.
The sample journal is what your report should look like, not the unknown notes. All right, anyways, that's what the sample journal is. You can take a look at it after you've worked on the term and you're starting to think about writing up your unknown report. You want your unknown report to look similar to this sample journal. Now, I think he has not finished the test here. And then wrote up the report. And so you can pretend that this is somebody who, nope, he did identify it. He identified this one as Staphylococcus aureus. So he did finish it then. What's in red is not going to be in the actual report. It's just a comment that whoever wrote this added to the sample journal. Any question about the sample journal? This is just showing you how the report should look. You can get the sample journal from the unknown project instructions on Canvas. Let me shrink that down a little. Actually, the first thing, the instructions. The second thing, building a dichotomous game plan. When you are asking for a test, you're going to be following dichotomous logic. So at every turn, let me do this paint again. We have all the possible species, possible. Where's that writing? Oh, there it goes. It's only the species that we have in the worksheet. And then we divide this by the gram stain. See if I can do that. Good enough. Oop. And do the gram positive and gram negative. Gram negative. And then let's say we cross this one out because it's not gram positive. So we do this one. I'm just going to put the MR test next. So MR positive versus MR negative. So you need to get the gram stain done before you request the next test, and the same here. You need to get the MR test done before you can request the next test. Whoop. Oh, let's just go PR lactose. It's an easier one. H2S. Positive. H2S negative. The point is, before you can ask for the H2S test, you have to run the MR test. Before you can ask for the MR test, you have to do the gram test. And you can choose what order of test you want to do, but my point is that we're following dichotomous logic, where you're requesting one test at a time, and it can be split into two possibilities, which is dichotomous logic. Now, with the PR test, you do split it into three. It can be A, first negative A, and then AG. And that's fine. It's still mostly following dichotomous logic. The difference is instead of having two here, we'd have three. Any questions about dichotomous logic? This project must use dichotomous logic. If ever you do not use dichotomous logic, you will get a penalty. Oh, no, I don't want to. You may use whatever sources you want to identify the species. Berge's manual is a good source, but you could use the textbook or any reliable information. Remember, if something's up on the internet, it may not be true, so you need to be able to confirm your findings. So just don't go find something and say the internet says this, because it could be wrong. And in fact, there's one place in our table, I don't remember what it was. There's one place in our table where something is off. And the reason it's off is so you can identify a species of bacteria from another species, meaning that the food structure was so similar that people had trouble identifying the person. and it might be that the individual was an identical twin with another individual, or it could be just it was hard to separate out the species by person. But anyways, I think it's that one there. There's one place on here where we've actually changed the test result. So it should be negative. I think it's this one, but I could be wrong. And we've changed it to something else, what it should be, to something what makes it easy to be able to distinguish the different species of bacteria. So there's one place in here where the table is actually wrong, but we have it in there so you can identify the species. If you ever request the test, I will send you the correct damage to the car, meaning either the repaired car where everything's been fixed or the other car where there's damage. Is that clear? What I'm trying to do is if you request this test, assuming this is the one that's actually wrong, um, I will request it if I will send your results as positive if you request this test. And if you go look it up online, I think it's this one. This one is actually not positive. We have it in there so you can identify this species from another species. So there's actually one error in this test. But for our purposes, I will always send you the correct results. So it's not an error. Any question about any of that? Don't quote me, but this is the place where there's an error on the table. It's someplace around here if it isn't there. All right, I guess I don't need that open. We don't need that either. So you can use what you want to get your information. Remember, this project is following dichotomous logic. If you don't use dichotomous logic, you'll get a penalty. You should record your daily lab notes in your lab notes page. So if you're ever working on the project, you need to record what you did in your daily lab notes, meaning in your lab notes page, including if you request a test, because I'll send you the test results back to the unknown notes page, meaning you will not be getting a Canvas email from me. All right, the unknown project is worth 75 points. You should use, I'm going to mention this one, you should use at least 12-point font. My eyesight has gotten pretty bad, and I won't be able to read it without 12-point font, even with my glasses. You should not use double spacing. You should, in your daily notes, include the test you ran, the information you hope to obtain from that test, the observations you made from that test, and then the interpretations of that test or your conclusions of the test. So all of those should be in your unknown notes page. You do not need to have any comment about what procedure you followed for running that test, meaning all you need to do is say what test you ran. You do not have to give me pages and pages of information about why you wanted to run that test or whatnot. You should omit data if it makes your project look better, meaning if something isn't quite correct, send the data in that way. You do not need to have drawings, photos, or tables, but that information can be very useful. If you do get a photograph, you must put in your report how you got the photograph and where you got the photograph. And usually people just put it as a caption directly under the photograph. You learned if you don't do that, then you are plagiarizing from where you got the photograph. Drawings, photos, and tables must be completely labeled if you got them from somewhere. If you, on the other hand, totally made up the table or you totally took the photo, you do not need to plug the sink to stop plagiarizing because you are allowed to plagiarize yourself, at least in this degree. Each report in your unknown notes page or in your unknown report should have a divider between the sections. Also, on top of that, you should have the date and time, at least the date in your unknown report for when you either got results or when you requested a test or you did some other experiment in your work area. You should put that down as when you are working. You're not going to get paid for anything like that, but you should do that for this project. Like I stated, you don't need to have the step-by-step details for the test that you ran. All you need to do is state what test you ran, and then what observations you got, and then what conclusions you got. You may have other clothing on to be warm. You may have other tests you're running or will be running. Your thoughts and words in your report should be your own. If you take words from another person, you should put it in quotes and then have an in-text for where you got it. And even if you paraphrase it, you should have an in-text stating where you got it from after the sentence, or if they continue to talk about one topic, it can be at the end of the paragraph. You should use the plagiarism tutorial, and then as well as the plagiarism style. What is it? DMD. What's the style this class uses? Anyone know?
APA 7.
There it is, APA 7. Thank you. I didn't remember the APA, believe it or not. I remembered part of it, but not all of it. Anyways, yeah, you should be writing this with APA 7, which is slightly different than APA 6, which is what we previously used. All right, let's go back to the instructions. It is mandatory your report should be your own. It is mandatory to also include a table outlining the process you use to identify your unknown organism. You can have a figure if you want, but most people identify it with an unknown organism. An example is provided in the next page, where here the instructor initially separated out to the gram-positive species, separated out the gram-positive catalase positive species, separated out to the gram-positive, catalase positive, PR mannitol negative species, and there's 3 possibilities. And then they did the PR glucose test, narrowing it down to 2 possibilities. And then lastly, they did the citrate test, and it was positive, and there's only one of the remaining 2 species, which was citrate positive, which was Micrococcus varians. But you should state how you identified the species you identified. Like if you identified as Micrococcus varians, you should go through a similar procedure stating how you got Micrococcus varians. The only exception is if you do not finish the project in time, and then you run out of time, and then you're writing up the report, you may finish the table with PR glucose test instead of the citrate test, where you have not identified the species. It could be that one or that one up until PR glucose test. Any question about any of that? So you should know about plagiarism now. Here's the grading criteria for the unknown report, not for the unknown notes, just the unknown report. You are allowed to run one confirmation test. You should have your report completed if you finished it on time. If you use bacon, you should put it in an index where you got the bacon from. And I guess you don't need to say how you cook the bacon, but remember, diagrams, photographs, and tables are very helpful information. They do not need to be included, but they are helpful. If you do include a picture, a photograph, or anything you got from the internet or a book, you need to have it in text citation, and then later on have that as a full citation, meaning your references. You will be graded on organization, clarity, and neatness. All the information except for maybe a handheld diagram must be typed. Each entry should be dated. You don't need to worry about that because Canvas will add it to the unknown notes page, but you may need to put the date on your Winco shopping bag or whatever shopping bag. Each entry should be dated, effective. You should have effective writing communication. The report should be free of grammatical and spelling errors. The report should be easy to read, easy to understand. You should try to identify your unknown species. As long as you have time, it should be possible. Lack of proper laboratory technique may be costly. Points will be deducted if your daily lab entries do not correspond with the actual dates, and the lack of adherence to safety rules. Well, you don't need to worry about that because we're an online class. You do not need to go through the questions in this unknown project instructions. It's only here to help you, and that is this is the way we normally set up our stock culture. You get your bacteria species. I don't know if it's been isolated out to one colony or not yet, and then you spread it out on TSA azide McConkey's plates. You allow the bacteria to grow until it forms isolated colonies. We have sodium azide and McConkey's because one tends to grow the gram-positive, the azide, and the other tends to grow the gram-negative, the McConkey's agar. Like I said, this isn't terribly important because I'll just give you your information on a piece of paper. Now you can take a look and make sure you did the TSA slants correctly. And then you can take a look at the results of the last 2 pages of your instructions. It's put on here because it just helps people who are struggling with dichotomous logic. And so we're going through an example of using dichotomous logic. You do not need to answer these questions if you're perfectly comfortable with dichotomous logic. This is only here for your benefit if you are uncomfortable using dichotomous logic. So if you were to go to the store and you were to buy apples and oranges, that would not be dichotomous, because when you're going to the store, you're supposed to really only get one thing, and it'd either be apples or oranges. And then let's say you apples, you can then break it down by your race of apple. Is it a Granny Smith apple, or is it a, what was that name called? Deciduous? No, we'll just say a Red Delicious. All right, any questions about your instructions? Oh, let me talk about how the unknown report will be graded. If I can open that. Actually, it'll be easier to open from here. Your unknown report will be graded on was excess media utilized. So utilization of media. If there are no excess, then you get 10 out of 10. Make sure this adds up. Yep, 75. Was dichotomous logic used? If there were no excess tests, then dichotomous logic was used and you get 10 out of 10. If, on the other hand, you have one excess test, so you're requesting two tests at the same time, you get a penalty. You only get you'll miss 3 out of 10 points. So you only get 7 points correct. If, on the other hand, you have shotgun logic, where supposedly you're identifying the species just by shooting at it with a shotgun, and if you don't know a shotgun, the what do they call that? The little round balls, the in the shotgun split, and you'll get a sprayed out splatter. If you're using shotgun approach, you're using literally a shotgun and running a whole bunch of tests at the same time, hoping some of them will work. Raw relevant tests used. If there are no tests you omitted, you'll get 10 out of 10. One test omitted, 8 out of 10. Two tests omitted, 6 out of 10. I usually don't see a problem with this one unless the student has not been paying attention in the lab. They may have missed reading all of the lab file pages, as well as was it shotgun logic used? If no shotgun logic, no test omitted, then it's 10 out of 10. If you report your findings, and I notice you need one more test to run to identify the species correctly, then you'll get one test omitted, or 8 out of 10. If there's two tests omitted, then there will be 6 out of 10. Three or more tests omitted, you only get 4 out of 10. Shotgun approach, like I said, you're trying to identify it just by shooting a shotgun in the general vicinity, and you happen to hit a whole bunch of other objects, and that's a shotgun approach. It works well if you got a telescope, like, for example, and you're looking in on a classmate using the telescope, but literally it's difficult to do shotgun logic on an online class. The only exception is if you request more than one test at a time. You could be guilty, and you're most likely guilty, of falling into the trap of shotgun logic. And even if you were to give a correct response in whatever language you speak, you still have your information going out there, and you don't have the information in the report that should be there, so that you're not using dichotomous logic. And obviously, we're talking sort of like a snake allegorical meaning a snake's not actually going to come up to your door. But the point is, if all relevant tests were not used and one test was omitted, you're going to get 8 out of 10. If the correct species were included at each step, remember, at each step you should be identifying the species under conclusion. If all species are correct, then you get 10. If one species is incorrect out of all of your report, then you get 8 out of 10. 2 or 3 species incorrect, 4 or 5 species incorrect, over 5 incorrect species, and this usually only happens in students who simply do not discuss the species under consideration, and they'll get 2 out of 10. Complete list of report, how much information was missing or presented. If all the information was presented, you get 10 out of 10. If there's one instance of missing information, you get 8 out of 10. For example, if you don't have the, where is it? If you do not have your table in there or your figure identifying how you obtained your species of interest, that will be one instance of missing information. If you don't have your index citations, that would be 2 instances of missing information. 3 instances of missing information would be if you don't have references, don't have your index citation, and you don't have your statement to state where you got your picture from. You could have more instances of missing information, like if you don't have your table identifying how you figured out your species, you don't have your reference section in there, you don't have your index citations, and whatever else would be. I've only named 3, but you're getting the idea. Was there a question? All right, you'll be graded on your effective and clear communication. If the English, the grammar, the spelling, and the punctuation are all good, you'll get 15 out of 15. If there are a few errors, but the logic is understood, you'll get 13 out of 15. Some errors, but I can still understand your logic, 11 out of 15. You have some errors, and some of your errors I cannot understand your logic, you get 7 out of 15. Lots of errors, the paper is hard to read, you only get 1 out of 15. If you identify the correct species, you get 10 out of 10. If you have the incorrect species, but it's a similar species, meaning in the same group, something like you say it's Staphylococcus epidermidis, and it really was Staphylococcus aureus, it's within the same group, you're getting 7 out of 10. If it's outside the group, but the gram stain is correct, like instead of Staphylococcus aureus, you say Streptococcus pyogenes, the cells are incorrect. It's outside your group, meaning outside your family, but the gram stain is correct. So you're getting 5 out of 10. And then the gram stain is incorrect, 0 out of 10. I think only once have I ever, in all my years of testing, only had one student who got a 0 out of 10, meaning the gram stain was wrong. So the worst I've ever seen was 5 out of 10, and only usually a few students get 5 out of 10. Most students get 7 out of 10 or 10 out of 10. And that'll be a total score out of 75 points. If you did everything correct, you'll get 75 out of 75. Any questions about the grading? Any questions about the project? If not, that's it for me. I'll stay on just for a little bit in case there's any questions or questions about the lab, but you guys are free to grow.
There is another lab this week though, right?
Yeah,
6
Thursday.
Thursday. Okay.
Let me take a look at the schedule just to be certain. Yep, Lab 6 will be on Thursday.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
I was hoping I could ask a clarifying question related to Lab 6. Is
Uh-huh.
that okay? So I'm working through it now, and on question 4, it says the size of the zone of inhibition often varies for two different species of bacteria when challenged with the same antibiotic. What is a possible explanation for these differences? And I was just wondering, how exact am I to take this wording? Did you want me to compare two true species? So
No,
using,
take a look at the wording. Just a minute. I don't have that lab up, so let me get it. Worksheet lab 6, right? What question is that?
it's question number 4.
Okay. So the size of the zone of inhibition often varies for two different species of bacteria when challenged with the same antibiotic. So you have two different
Correct.
species of bacteria. They're being challenged with the same antibiotic. What's a possible explanation for the differences in the size of the zone of inhibitions?
Right. And I understand the spirit of the question, but I think what my question is do you want the same genus and then different species, or are we just saying it can be any genus,
Can be
any
any
species?
genus, any species.
Okay, thank you. I just wasn't sure how
How
specific
exact? It could
that
be
was.
the same within the same genus. It doesn't matter. There's still
Okay,
different species, but
okay,
it could be even out of the same genus.
okay.
Okay.
Wonderful.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Have a good night.
You too.